Welcome to the Book Party Podcast.
Join us as we journey into the world of books with Michael T.
Prepare to be captivated by engaging interviews, insightful discussions, and fascinating stories. You'll discover new adventures and gain insight into the creative process of the authors themselves as they share their struggles and accomplishments. Now let's hear from Michael T.
This is Michael T. Ladies and gentlemen, robots and humans, adventurers of all kinds, welcome to a podcast that will take you on unforgettable journey through the realms of discarded dreams and extraordinary storytelling. This is the Book Party Podcast, and today we're diving into riveted universe crafted by author M.K. Stangeland Jr. Buckle up as we delve into pages of a debut novel, Junkworld, the Ballad of Leroy Brown. Picture a world where forgotten machinery awakens, a planet where discarded machines find new life. Fresh off a victorious battle, the champion fighting robot, Leroy Brown, inexplicably finds himself on Junkworld. But it's not where he belongs, and the adventure begins. Convinced that his presence on this mysterious planet is a glitch in the gears, Leroy sets out on an extraordinary mission to return home. But there's more on this tale than meets the robotic eye. M.K. Stangeland Jr., hailing from the heartland of southeast South Dakota, is a writer and a masterful weaver of stories. Amidst his many roles, including being a caregiver for his grandmother, Michael's passion for immersive tales in various forms shines through. He's a connoisseur of captivating narratives, from books to movies, comics to RPGs. His literary prowess comes to life with Junkworld, the Ballad of Leroy Brown. Join us as we unravel this debut masterpiece's layers and explore its creativity's architect's mind. This might be Michael's first published novel, but mark your words. It's just the beginning of an epic saga that will resonate far and wide. Throughout this podcast series, we'll venture into the heart of Junkworld, dissecting its themes, characters, and the art of crafting captivating science fiction. From insightful conversations with the author himself to immersive discussions about the power of storytelling, we'll uncover the magic that brings these discarded machines to life. Dear listeners, whether you're a fan of futuristic adventures or have a soft spot for tales that tug at your heartstrings, you're in for a treat. Strap in as we journey through Junkworld, the Ballad of Leroy Brown. Remember to hit that subscribe button and join us for the ride of a lifetime. And then remember that the most remarkable stories can be even found amidst discarded parts. Thank you for tuning in to this exciting preview of our exploration into Junkworld, the Ballad of Leroy Brown, by M.K. Stangeland Jr. Stay connected and curious. M.K., why don't you take it from here, fill in the blanks a bit, and tell our listeners about yourself?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for that very wonderful and very well-crafted introduction. That was, far more and far better than I was expecting. Yes, I am M.K. Stangeland Jr. And that's actually, and yeah, I recognize you may have gotten a little bit wrong, but that's actually something I'm really used to, and you will hardly be the last one that'll probably get it, put an R in there. I've taken to making a joke that my family is like haunted by a really petty pirate, that anytime the last name is said, there's that pirate ready to go R. So yes, again, a lot of it you really covered already, but as far as me being a writer, I think that to some degree I've had interest in writing since I was real little. Some of my earlier memories are writing, small stories that by today's standards would basically be really simple fan fiction tales. Like when I was young, I was a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I wrote a few just clearly real amateurish stuff, but being real little. But then later, when I got into college, my writing as it is now really picked up. One of the first major, I'd say what really the starting point for this timeline is, I don't know, for people who are familiar with Red versus Blue, that's an internet show that used Halo as the animation tool. I wound up writing a script for a similar kind of series because I thought, hey, I really want to do something like this. And while it didn't ever get past the script, it didn't really ever get made. It did launch me into the process of regularly writing the way I am now. I've written a few other things as my process has been, trying to put something together that'll actually get an audience. Because the normal process is you write it, you get it as good as you can, you send it out to a literary agent, you find a literary agent, the literary agent finds a publisher. And while this book that I finally did get published didn't go through that normal process, which I think we'll be talking a little bit about later, this book getting off my computer screen, getting on pages, getting published where other people can have it in their hands is kind of the major culmination of what I've been working towards for several years. Yeah, I'm a big, I'm a big fan of storytelling. I'm a big fan of science fiction, various other fiction. Big thing being, do I find it entertaining? Do I find that I'm getting something useful out of it? And this one kind of carries a little extra import. It is a little bit extra special, and I'm a little bit more passionate about this one because the major inspiration from it comes from it's like a TV show kind of sport that I'm a big fan of, BattleBots. As it says in the special thing, it does mention in the special thanks that making reference to that. And I think for people who are fans of that, there might be things in there small things in there they might pick up on, but in a way where even if you have no idea about the show.
Well, you touched on both ways a little bit. So the question I've got for you, on your publishing journey, did you actually go self-publishing route, or did you go the agent and agency route for this book?
Well, initially, I made the effort at the traditional route. I have a few other books that I tried to go the professional route. And this one actually was the one I got the furthest, because all the other books I'd tried, at best I got your traditional, sorry, this isn't what we're looking for. This one I actually did kind of get a couple responses where one agent, there was some back and forth, but then that kind of fell off, which I think may have had something to do with something going on in the agent's life. I had another that said, well, I don't have room for this now, get back to me later. But then when I got back to that guy later, it fell apart. So initially, because I initially had this ready years ago, but when I didn't get an agent I couldn't find an agent, I put it aside and thought, okay, maybe I can come back to this later when if I have some success, I have some credit, and I can come back and maybe get this another look at, and worked on other projects. Well, then years later, as you mentioned, one of the major things I do is I am responsible for helping care for my grandmother. And as part of that, she recognizes that I've got this writing that I'm working on. And so she was asking, okay, what can I do to help you along the process? And, she asked questions about what does the process entail? And you know, and so I went, so with my grandma asking about that and, saying she'd be willing to help me, I decided, okay, I'm going to look at other options. And what I eventually found isn't isn't exactly a self-publishing process, but it's a lot closer to that. It's referred to as a hybrid publishing process. So it has elements of both. It has both elements of self-publishing and traditional publishing. And the company I found to help me, they're called Beyond Publishing. And the way it worked is I did pay a fee for the major process of putting the book together, but it didn't come with the requirement of you need to buy a certain amount of books. Effectively, I did the major writing process. I put the book together. I wrote it all out, and I had the major decisions. And here's what the book is going to consist of. I had a third-party editor that I found through family that took care of, going through making sure grammatically and making sure it's written out, the kind of stuff that you need below what are the actual words in the book. And then I had this Beyond Publishing that the big part they took care of is the logistics, like getting the book assembled, having someone to actually put the cover together. A lot of that used pre-constructed elements, but it's still a cover I'm happy with. And then they are responsible for taking care of, having it on the various websites, which they really took care of the heavy lifting on the logistics and making sure it's actually in people's hands. So I'd say it's a split of the creative elements have been what I've been doing. The logistical, getting it in people's hands, has been their responsibility. And then there's been kind of a split between publicity and letting people know this book actually exists and you can purchase it and read it, and hopefully you will enjoy it.
Okay, because, I'm on my fourth book now. They're nonfiction, and I've went the self-publishing route on all of them. And what I've done is I've built a team that when I finally put the team together through like Fiverr and stuff like that, I can get my editing, my formatting, my book cover, those things, and make it really quick, and it just, man, it goes bing, bang, boom once you get that team together, and you can get uploaded, and then you can go to Ingram Spark and you can load through there, and man, you can get that thing blasted all over the planet through bookshelves and stuff. And it's just an amazing way to do it. Anyway,
Yeah.
So when you're going through what you did, you still got to do some of the lifting yourself anyway. But it's just another way to do it. There's quite a few more people that are doing it that way, because traditional publishers end up costing more, and it takes sometimes years to get things done through traditional publishers, and you lose control. And people don't want to lose control of their work and be told what to say. So that's why traditional publishers just aren't the route, for, let's call us normal dogs. We just don't want to go that way anymore.
Yeah.
And then you have to buy a certain amount of books. You got to go to a certain amount of book signings and book shows, and you got to pay for it, your travel and everything. So, it's just,
well, it's
tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely been it is constantly a learning process and figuring out the right things to do and figuring out better ways to do things. And so, yeah, I definitely know there's room for me to improve in the future, but in some ways right now, my main focus is, yes, I'm glad I actually have this out, but yes, look at, okay, what did I do this time that I can do better next time? So.
Well, absolutely. And it's always a learning process. My first book, I tried to do the cover myself, and what a disaster that was. I had to pull it off, get a cover designer, And man, it was 1,000 or 10,000 times better than what I did. Had to reload it, and oh man, was that better. It was just horrible with what I did. Anyway, okay. Take us to what you would consider in this particular book your worst author moment
Well,
in writing this book.
I guess it's hard to point to a worst moment for this book. If I did have to point to one, I'd say the worst moment was when I mentioned that there were a couple of people for this book that I did actually talk to. And I'd say that the worst moment was it felt like, hey, there's a little bit of hope that I might actually get here. But then for that to kind of fall apart, where in the one example, the person who I did talk to, or it looked like something might happen, it's just I think the terminology is ghosted, which again, I think there was something going on with that person's life, so I can understand it, but it's still a bad feeling to, hey, this agent might actually work with me, but then no, nothing. And then in the other case of someone who I mean, based on the description, the guy said, well, I'm intrigued, but I don't have room for it right now. Get back to me later, to go back later and then discover, okay, I guess it's not going to happen. But
yeah, it's like a rejection, and you're just kind of like, oh man, and then a bunch of wasted time when you're just waiting and waiting and waiting, and then that was like a standard answer, like don't bother me, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like the standard rejection, but it's a little bit worse because it comes with that extra hope. Not even necessarily the time, because while I'm sending out these agent letters, I mean, I'm sending out a bunch of letters to a bunch of people at a bunch of different times. But it's more that building up that little bit of hope that then just built up for nothing.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, and that's really a bad feeling. Okay, well, okay, in this next question that I've got, no matter what you were doing except writing at the time, you could have been taking a shower, you could have been driving, you could have been cooking, you could have been caring for grandma. It doesn't matter what you were doing except for the writing. I call this an epiphany moment. You can call it a wow moment. You can a bright light bulb went off in your head. Something that happened, and you had a thought that was like this giant light bulb went off. Wow, I've got to get a pen and paper. I got to write this down right now, because if you don't, whatever you thought of would fade away, and if you wrote it down later, it just wouldn't be the same. Did you ever have a moment like that?
I'd say for this book, not really. I mean, from when I was for the me, because while I did put this book aside, a lot of this book came together largely in one strand, where from the early stages I was writing down notes, figure out basic plotting, and then I went to writing it down on page. And so I mean, I guess I can't point to any one major moment, maybe smaller moments here or there of, oh, I've got this plot problem, hey, here's my solution to actually solving it. Or maybe I have one thing planned and then there's a, no, that doesn't work with the story, I have to do differently. But part of those things, I'm not sure how much I can delve into because they revolve I mean, kind of some major spoilers that, I mean, clearly I want people to read this book, and I don't want to be, hey, listen to why you should buy the book, and by the way, I'm going to spoil major things that happen. So yeah, I'd say there's no major light bulbs for this book, maybe smaller things. I'd say the biggest light bulb I have with writing isn't necessarily even for this book, and it's not one moment, because I've been working on writing for several years, and I'd say there's two linked things that kind of or like when I look at here's the big aha or I'm doing something right moment is first, like I'd say not long after college, there was a website that was doing a web comic contest saying, hey, can you present us your web comic idea with art and hey, maybe we can get you something. And while I didn't win that, the comic that I put together was one of the finalists that they pointed out as here's one of the ones that we and our judges like best. And then later, there's another book that I was working on that there was a publishing contest that, again, it didn't win, but it was one of the finalists. And I was told, yes, people we have reading this, they really like this. So in neither of those cases, the project I was working on, the project I presented won, that I was still one of the standout people, one of the finalists in both cases. I mean, I look at those and it's one of those moments that tells me, look, I'm doing something right. This isn't just me wanting to be a writer and imagining that I have something here. You know, that kind of thing tells me, look, if I keep working at it, I have something. I just need to get the right project and present it to the right people. And it's kind of like showing that, yes, you're going the right direction. You just need to keep plowing ahead and, you keep working at it, keep adjusting the details. And there is success waiting for you if you're just willing to put in the effort and put in the work to get better.
All right, let's go to today. What is the one thing that you're the most fired up about or most excited about right now today?
I'd say right today is trying to get people to know about this book and, let people know and, explain here's why it's a book you should be reading. And combined with that, looking ahead to, now that I have this published, looking ahead to here's the next book I'm working on that I'm going to get published, and what are the other ideas that I have a book, I have it published. The people who have read it, they have given me positive feedback. They say, hey, I like this book. So it's a matter of making sure the greater audience is aware of it and then looking ahead to the next one.
Okay. Well, this is Michael T. Thank you for being with us this morning. We invite you to go to bookpartypodcast.com, hit that subscribe tab, then go scroll down to the icon of your choice, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or Odyssey. You can find us on one of your favorite platforms. You can download and follow us there. Please leave a review. Don't forget to sign up for our video newsletter. Get the latest information for our upcoming shows. Okay, MK, we're entering the lightning round. In the lightning round, we have 4 pointed questions for 4 pointed answers. Before you actually became an actual author, what was holding you back from becoming an author in the first place?
I'd say the primary thing holding me back was myself. Well, there's a matter of actually putting in the work, I don't know. And I think a lot of it is there was a period where my attentions drifted to other things. So there was a period where writing wasn't my primary focus. There was things like acting and looking to maybe not fiction writing, but I don't know, maybe journalism. Yeah. So the main thing holding me back was myself and my focus and actually putting a focus and effort and actually putting in the work.
Okay. In this, while you were writing, what was the best advice you had ever received?
I'd say one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten or figured out is you want to look at the good stuff that has come before and not just the recent stuff, but what are the classics? And then also alongside that, one of the best things you can do to get what you need for writing books is to go out and live your life and use real life experience. Because the best writing it has it has an element that links to real life. I mean, even the most outlandish fiction, the most outlandish science fiction fantasy, there's some connection to real life truths that you need to pull from, and the best way to get those, well, as they say, experience is the best teacher.
Okay. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
I would say is that when I'm in the process of writing, my brain, I mean, even when I'm not actually at my keyboard typing things out or at a piece of paper writing things out, in my head, I'm still writing and brainstorming and going through thinking, okay, how am I going to make this work? And in some ways, a major part of my writing process is that even before I write anything, I mean, I will have kind of a rough outline or first draft that's kind of forming in my head. Maybe I'll have scenes that I know how they want to play out that form in my head. So one of the biggest elements that's worked out is even when I'm not writing, I'm still kind of writing.
Share an internet resource that you can share with our listeners that you use when you're writing.
I guess I don't have a go-to internet resource when I'm writing. The one that the best one that came to mind is is leading up to this, because once you have writing, then there's also the process of promotion, because getting the book put together is one thing. Then there's getting into people's hands, and that requires promotion, letting people know. And I'd say one of the best elements I've had, one of the best resources I've had for that so far has been the Podmatch website, which helps connect people who are who want to let people know about their books or guests, and connects them with people such as yourself that is willing to give people an opportunity to share word of their books to the world, or share what are they doing, what are they trying to let people know about.
MK, we're now going to enter the grand finale. And in this grand finale, this is your time to tell all of our listeners all about your book.
Okay, so there are two halves to what is this book about. The first half is, what is the basic plot? And you covered a major bulk of that, of what is it about, in your introduction. It's about a military robot turned championship fighter who's he's an undefeated robot, an undefeated champion at the start of this book. But then, for reasons he doesn't understand, he winds up on Junkworld, which is basically a giant junkyard planet. This is where people dump machines when they don't want them anymore. Maybe machines that they don't want people to know about. And clearly, he is understandably, he thinks this is a mistake. He doesn't think he should be here. So as this book starts out, he has made it his mission to go home. Now, into this comes a character called the Top Dog. And he is a robot tyrant that is trying to conquer Junkworld. And once he learns about Leroy Brown, for reasons nobody understands, he's trying to capture Leroy Brown and have him brought to him. Now, why that is explained later, but it plays into the resolution, and plays into it's. So ultimately, what you have is these two elements blend together. So you have it about Leroy trying to save Junkworld and its population from this tyrant who is trying to take it over, and those two plots intermix, and so it's got elements of action, it's got adventure, it's got military, it's got some big battle scenes, and that is what is on the plot side. Then you have what is in the theme side, or sometimes what's referred to as subtext. And on that side, what the book is about, it's what are the choices we make based on what life presents us with. Like when life presents us with challenges or decisions, or what are the decisions we make? Like imagine you have a table set out, and you have your life set out on that table. Everything is set out great. You know what's going on. But then life comes around and flips the table on you. So your entire life is upended. And so it's about when that happens, when life flips your table on you, flips your life on you, gives you a new hand that's not really that great. What do? What are the choices you make in response to that? So that is on this, thematic level, that is what this book is about. And in addition to that, it's a science fiction book, but I've had people who have read it who have told me, look, I'm not normally a science fiction fan, but I'm really enjoying this. And it's got characters in it that you can really get invested in, characters you can really care about. I mean, and oftentimes that is one of the big things is, do I care what happens to the characters in this book? And this is a book where I have had people tell me, yes, I care about what happens to these characters. And so, if you're looking for reasons, it's got a good plot, it's got great themes, it's got great characters. It's got, a villain that I really enjoy. I mean, it's weird because when I think about this book and I think a lot of the great, what do I like most? A lot of the stuff that comes back is it involves the top dog, the main villain. That I think he really stands out as a character that a really intimidating, he really has a real presence to him. So all that comes together, and that is all reasons why stuff within this book that make me real passionate about it.
And that's great. And that brings us to the end of another exhilarating episode of the Book Party Podcast. Fellow adventurers and story enthusiasts, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Junkworld, the Ballad of Leroy Brown by M.K. Stangeland Jr. We've explored the mysteries of discarded machines, followed Leroy Brown's extraordinary quest, and gained insight into the creative mind behind it all. As we conclude today's episode, we encourage you to continue the journey. Pick up a copy of Junkworld and immerse yourself into the vibrant world MK has crafted. Share your thoughts, theories, and questions on social media using the hashtag. Hashtag is Junkworld Podcast. We'd love to hear your story. Take on the story. Remember, storytelling is a journey that knows no bounds. Whether diving into a book, tuning into a movie, or rolling the dice in the RPG, every tale has its own magic to offer, and MK, with his debut novel, has gifted us a universe that will resonate with us for years. Before we sign off, thank M.K. Stangeland Jr. for sharing his creative insights and allowing us to explore Junkworld. And of course, thank you, our listeners, for joining us on this adventure. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us. Stay curious, stay imaginative, and remember that stories can transport us to places we've never dreamed of. Until next time, keep your gears turning, your imagination soaring. This is Michael T., and we are signing off.
You must not miss our next episode as we delve into a world of inspiration, entertainment, and thought-provoking insights. Join Michael T. on the next Book Party Podcast and experience a new adventure, a new story, and a complete immersion into the world of Pages Unveiled, Chronicles of the Writing Journey.